Hello, hello. All right, everyone. Come on in. I think we're getting started. People. Williams typing. Hey, William, I'm late getting my microphone set up. Can you hear me okay? Let me know what I need to do. You know, we got other people coming on. All right. Jesse. Oh, man, I like this. All right, Amanda. Oh, it's gonna be a party. We're gonna have a good time. Hey, Raj. Toba. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We have got an excellent show for you all today. I'm trying to be a YouTuber, but there's some seriously exciting things that are going to happen. We'll get some more people up here, but excited to talk about community. The community shipped the new release half hour ago. Bernie's here, and there's some exciting things happening with the core team, and we have an upcoming feature. Danny is going to give you a preview of that's going to get you excited, but you're gonna have to stick around to the end to get to that part. So let's find out. Tom, if you're out there, we'll get you up here. Tom, I'm looking for you. Ah, there you are. You know, just while we're getting started, well, Jesse, I won't put you on the spot now, but I seriously thought about it. Jesse and I had to do a podcast. You invited me to come and do a podcast with you, and it was a great time. Let me see who else. Rob. I'm not seeing Rob. Peter, are you here? Peter. Should have Tom coming up. It was so much fun. And you got excited. Well, actually, you already were excited about Redwood, Jesse, but I like that you came to our meetup. Am I coming in really fuzzy? Let me know who else is out there. Tom, if you can see me, I had you coming up on stage. There you are.
Hello.
Ah, hello.
Hi, everyone.
Rob. Everyone. Oh, you know what, Rob? Rob can't get in for some reason. I'm not sure what happened to Rob. No. Get him going here. You know what else? Let's get we'll get a couple other people. Forrest, are you out there? I wanted to get you up on stage when we kick this off. Roger. I have no idea how to get Rob in.
Didn't we have this problem last time?
No, it was always me inviting people up on stage, but everyone give me a second. All right, Tom, I'll work on this, but fill the stage with some pleasant banter. Invite someone up on stage. Who should we pick?
Who wants to join?
Keith and Forrest. Yeah, those were two people that we were going to introduce possibly. But
okay, well, I can't bring them up. I don't think I have the power to bring people on stage.
Can you can't right click on anyone? Do only I have the power? That's
I have no idea. I don't think so.
What did we do to Rob? What did we do to Rob? I think we'll just have to. It's just read.
You got to add him to the list of team members.
I did. He is actually. I could show you. He is a team member. It's official when I go into the admin here. We're good at finding bugs, so maybe that's what we did. I could. Well, I could take him off the team. I don't know what to do right now.
Let's see. What do we got? Any questions? Any Redwood questions? We got a new release coming out here pretty soon. I'm going to steal all the thunder of the actual meeting if I get talking too much. We have a new 025. Yep, coming out I think today, right, David?
It may have came out.
Is it out already? Jeez, I'm behind the times.
Well, I mean, yeah, you missed like 30 minutes ago.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. We've got people to introduce because we have some awesome things happen in the community, and that's what we care about most. So we'll see if we can find Forrest. And then William. Let's get William up here. Let's just we'll get William going. He's gonna do a demo of Entry.io and walk through a product that he created. And then Rob might be here. Yay, there he is. And then Danny's gonna show off some things. Dom, when you're ready, we're gonna have Dom talk a little bit about what to do with the new commands in Redwood too, with the 0.25 release. So thanks for letting us get settled in, everyone. We are really excited. There's a lot of fun. A lot of fun things we're gonna do. Okay, so I guess we'll just officially kick it off. By the way, my name is David. You may see me on the internet as the David, but I'm in Northern California and have been on the founding team of RedwoodJS. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to work with these guys. I've known Tom for a long time, and that's who I am. I guess I'm doing introductions now. So see, I'm trying to segue kind of. All right, Tom, you segue.
Am I segueing or am I introducing myself? I'll introduce myself. Tom Preston-Werner. Hello, Mojambo on GitHub and elsewhere on the internet, and core team member of Redwood and founder. And I love having these meetings and talking about Redwood and getting other people up on the stage, so which we will do shortly, I believe. Go, Rob.
Am I segueing or am I introducing?
Segue to yourself.
Rob Cameron. I'm Canakin on GitHub and elsewhere. Southern California, a little north of San Diego. Old Ruby on Rails guy. Now doing JavaScript for better or worse. And yeah, looking forward to the meeting today to see what's getting presented. Excited.
Better and worse. A little bit of both. That's a little bit of both. Okay, we have Forrest come up here. So first thing I want to talk about is this Redwood community. And if those who is your first time coming to a RedwoodJS meetup, there is a really vibrant community. We have close to now 10,000 people that are involved and engaged with Redwood in some way. We have this community at large, and we want to make it possible and invite anyone and everyone to be a part of the community if you want to. So it is open. And that not only includes being a part of GitHub and participating in GitHub, but we have wonderful forums, wonderful chat. There's just all kinds of helpful people that are there and engaged. And then we also have people that are contributing to Redwood. And we have a contributors group that anyone could be a part of. We find you if you are enthusiastic and engaged in helping make Redwood better. So that's a little bit of a smaller circle, and we gather a few times a month to basically meet each other and find ways to collaborate on new Redwood things. And then the most inner of the concentric circles is a group called the core team. And members of the core team are people that have different roles and responsibilities across the entire Redwood ecosystem. Some people are really focused on maintaining the code base, documentation, doing advocacy for Redwood. We now have 14 people on the core team. We haven't even been around a year. And these are people we've all just met in the last year that have jumped in to be a part of Redwood. We have 14 now because we've added 2 more. Kim-Adeline Miguel is not able to join us today, but she's been around since a few months of Redwood taking off. She works at Microsoft. She's a TypeScript expert, which is great. We love TypeScript experts. She is also an emoji expert. And what I mean is she brings a wonderful atmosphere and joy to all of her work and everyone she engages with. So we're really excited to have Kim-Adeline. Again, she couldn't join us today. And Forrest Hayes, who has also been a part of Redwood since the beginning. He's been a part of the community at large, the contributors group for many, many months now. And now we welcome Forrest to the core team. And we wanted him to meet you. Forrest Hayes, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
So this is where I'm supposed to have some really savvy questions to ask you about yourself. But instead, would you please tell us about yourself. And if you remember, like, how did you first hear about Redwood way back in the day?
Oh, I think I saw one of the first posts on Hacker News and was, I had been getting into React and thought, wow, if it can tie it all together, that's a great place for someone like me to jump in. And then Rob's tutorial won me over. And then you guys had a meetup, an open meetup just like this one, maybe one of the first. And you guys were so friendly and encouraging about contributing that I wanted to try. And really helpfully, some of the issues are labeled good first issue. So if you're new to the project, it doesn't mean that the issue is only for beginners. I learned that the hard way. It might just mean that it only touches 1 or 2 files. So you don't have to know the scope of the whole project. And so actually Redwood is the first open source project I've ever contributed to. And just trying to keep up with all the changes. And yeah, I've been invited to help David manage how quickly Redwood's popularity is growing and to help coordinate all our different channels a little bit and keep everybody on the same page.
Yeah, thanks, Forrest. And Forrest, what is your, I think a lot of people have this, oh man, it's a core team. Like, what do I have to do? So a couple decades of like code experience. I've got to be like Rob, right? Everyone's like, I got to be like Rob. I have to be sophisticated and really good at Rails and kind of love-hate relationship with JavaScript, right? So, right? And have cool things on my shelves behind me. But
except for the sophisticated part, I don't know where that came from.
Right. So that's what it takes to be on the core team. So what, I don't know, Forrest, are you a Rob or what is it? I'm trying to get to the point that we want anyone who wants to be a part of Redwood to have a chance to be on the core team. So yeah, what is it? What are the apprehensions you had as well as some of the excitement you had about the opportunity?
Yeah, well, of course, it's hard to appreciate what, it's easy to imagine. Like I'm a new developer, and my first thought was definitely I don't have the experience to write code that's going to generate more code. It's over my head. But then every meetup and throughout the conversations, I've seen the more experienced members and core team members, community members, being willing to say when they don't know the answer or asking open-ended questions that really made it, to me, seem like a space or a community where not knowing everything or writing the perfect code or the best tests is the standard. Instead, it seems like it's really a collaborative effort, and people are encouraged to experiment and to fail because we're learning something from those failures too and discovering the best practices and patterns. And I've seen, even many of you may know that there are other full stack Jamstack frameworks in the making. And it seems like Redwood that there's a lot of collaboration there too. I've tended to focus, I've been kind of on, Redwood sent me stickers. So I'm already on the Redwood train, on the Redwood party, but it's been really exciting to see how much innovation there is in the space. And I think not a day goes by that someone in one of the forums doesn't say, what if we wired this up to the project? Or if we made it so that you could configure that part of the project. So it's been a lot of fun to see that development.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you. We're excited. We're excited you're part of it, and thanks for sharing that experience. That's exactly what I was hoping you would talk about, because, right, it takes a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds with a lot of different skills to make this thing work, and we want the community to be awesome, and the community is growing quickly. So having you and Kim-Adeline and others to help out with that is going to be just a real gift to the whole community at large. So. Thank you so much. A couple of quick things on contributors. So Keith, I'm not sure if you're out there. I wanted to talk about something that's happening kind of amongst the contributor circle and people that are enthusiastic about starting new projects and working with others. There's a couple posts on the forums right now. It's Keith. Let me see if I can get you up here. I wanted him to talk about one briefly, but people are wanting to start Redwood. Redwood groups. So gather around and focus on a specific thing. We don't have one yet, but a great group we would love to see happen. And we're trying to connect some people and make the conversation happen, is a Redwood learning group. So thinking about tools and curriculum, ways that Redwood could be used for people learning how to code, but also ways that people could better learn how to use Redwood. So that's one of the group. And then Keith, who has come to one of our contributors meetups recently. Keith, please introduce yourself, but also Keith is kicking off a new Redwood group, and I'll post a link to the forum, but I wanted him to introduce himself and then introduce the group that he's getting started. Keith, welcome.
Oh, cool. Thanks, David. And Forrest, I can relate to your experience. I probably hang with Rob in terms of, say, experience in life, but in terms of experience in development, I'm right there with you, Forrest. I have never, I guess before this, if I'm contributed to an open source gig, and it's been a joy. And it's just been a couple of weeks, so the whirlwind, it happens fast. Namely, I'm gainfully employed with an energy company. I'm not a software developer, but it's just this passion. I actually lived in the Bay Area in the late 90s and I've always coded, but it's never been my full-time gig. But more and more, it's an hour or two a day. And I've always had it called a startup mentality, a product-oriented mindset. And I'm creating a little product. Again, I was showing, I always have flashcards, so I'm creating a little flashcard app. But that's just a simple little product I have in mind. And at the contributors meeting last week, there was discussion and interest in, say, startups. And being, everybody's biggest fan, especially those who are trying to make something happen as a startup, I essentially was volunteered by Mr. Price to.
Oh no, you wanted to do it. I remember you were like, "Hey," and I was like, "Keith, you totally should do that. That'd be a great idea."
I'm happy to do it. So, namely, in my mind, I'm happy to fan the flame of, say, supporting startups that are using Redwood as their core technology. And the simple first go do is a discourse thread. It's called creating a startup support crew. And so it's just, first step is if you're interested in sharing what you're up to and just having some brothers and sisters wrestling through the startup gig with you, we're here to support you. And if you're wrestling with tech questions, et cetera, maybe some of that in that venue too. And certainly, goal number one, just support and fan the flame of startup gigs and they're using Redwood as the core tech. So that's my pitch.
Yeah, thank you. And so the post on the forum there, and something else, I think a conversation, this has all happened the last couple of days, but another element of the conversation. So Thomas, whose screen name is Noor Munich, is talking about pitching Redwood to businesses, and he wants to use it in his consulting work. And so there's also just kind of like Redwood for business, and where does Redwood have a place just in the ecosystem of building things and consulting work. So I think that's going to probably be a natural part of the group, Keith, as you all get started. So
okay, great.
So we're all making this up as we go. Keith, thank you and welcome. Welcome to the community. It's really a pleasure to have you. So if you're welcome to stick around on stage. I think I have to boot you off if not. But just let me know. The next thing I wanted to talk about briefly, and I'm not sure if Dom is here yet, is we have a major new release that just came out, and that's Redwood 0.25.0. And this one is also all about community, because in 9 days, the Redwood contributors and the core team and all kinds of people put out, actually including documentation, over 50 merged PRs in 9 days to get out a massive upgrade so that we could be using the latest and greatest Prisma. So I just, hey, if you haven't thanked a Redwood contributor today, please do so. So everyone's in the release notes. So Dom, come on up. And there's inviting Dom to stage right now, so you can see it, but it's just amazing. And the collaboration effort that goes on to make these releases happen is just incredible. And it's just such a pleasure to work with everyone. So there's too many names to name. Check out the release notes. If I don't get to it, would someone post the link to the forum article on the version 0.25 release that came out today? If you're upgrading, you're going to have some questions. We put together as many walkthroughs as we possibly could. And Rob rewrote the tutorial sections for all these things. I mean, it was a massive effort to get this going. But if you have questions, the forum is the right place for them. It's worth the effort to upgrade because there's a lot of amazing new things on the Prisma side, and it's included in the release. So yeah, thank you to everyone. It's really a pleasure, and that was a major push. Thank you. Some late nights for a lot of people. Dom, if you are ready, give me the thumbs up. Was going to do us a quick demo of the new Prisma commands that you'll be using to work with your database, starting with version 0.25.
Yeah, I'm ready to go over some of it. I was testing it out, and I'm still like getting the workflow down, but I'm happy to share. I'll share my screen real quick here. So the first thing I wanted to show was that the Prisma documentation is totally redone and reorganized, and like it's a really amazing resource. They added an overview kind of to the page, and I know the docs before, like sometimes it could get, Prisma has like a sprawling surface area, so it's hard to know where you're at sometimes. So I would definitely give this a look again. Anything you want to find, they have this great like guide to get you where you want to go fast, and I'm just gonna highlight a few docs that you definitely want to check out, which are this CLI command reference. This is like all the Prisma commands and all the options they have and everything it can do. And this doc is for Prisma migration flows. So migrate, as David said, has gotten a huge update. Redwood before used legacy migrations, what are now called legacy migrations. So I'll go to the CLI here and just show what I mean. Is the text big enough for everybody? Sorry, can you, I wasn't sure if I'm getting through to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make the text as big as you can tolerate.
Got it. So before in Redwood, you would use yarn redwood db, and then this was your kind of entry point to every Prisma command, and you would do db save, db up, db seed, and generate even. So this has now been deprecated, and if you try and do it, you'll get a warning. So here, I'll try and save a migration. So it will direct me to this new command called yarn redwood prisma migrate dev. So as of 2.5, so that's the latest version if you install or upgrade now. So yarn redwood prisma is your access or entry point to all these great new Prisma commands, and it's actually just a lightweight wrapper around Prisma itself. So if you run help, you'll get all of the options that Prisma, like you can just go straight to the Prisma CLI and do pretty much whatever you want. The only difference between like running yarn redwood prisma and just running something like yarn prisma is that we provide your schema path and enable preview features. This CLI tip is kind of here to help you, like if you're totally lost, it'll take you straight to the CLI docs where we really like try and really explain what we did like with this command and like which commands we think you're really going to need to use. So those would be like db and migrate. Generate is sometimes useful if you get in a state where you need to like, you've updated your schema and you just got to make sure Prisma is like reading the new changes. But so the ones I really want to highlight for you here are the Prisma migrate commands. Because if you've done some Redwood before, you're going to know that you do db save and db up. And those two commands are actually now just one command called yarn redwood prisma migrate dev. And I have a local project here, and I think it's going to say that I have no changes, but it's going to say, yeah, already in sync. But if I go here in the migrations folder, you don't have actually too many files anymore. Like before, you had a steps.json and a schema and a readme, but now you just have an SQL file. And the cool thing about migrations now is they're deterministic and they're just plain SQL. So in my schema here, I have an email that's a string. And if I'm using Postgres, and I know I have like an access to a lot more data types. So I can actually go in here and just call this a varchar and say like 30 or something. And that's totally fine. Like I would have to reapply the migration and just make sure Prisma is taking up this change. But you really have access like to as much customization as you want. Like this is completely optional. And even in the schema file and some of the changes coming, you can specify like native data types right here. So make sure you, like the new workflow might take a little bit of getting used to, but it's really great and cool. And the reason this is called dev instead of just like why would dev be here? Is there like another place where I can migrate my changes to? And the answer to that is like, yes, it's be deploy. So Prisma splits up your commands based on like the environment that you're migrating. And so as long as you're working locally, you're going to be doing migrate dev. And then once you're going to production, you're going to switch to migrate push. And again, if you ever, migrate deploy. And again, if you ever forget any of that, you can just Prisma help is like right here to show you like all the commands you have. And one more thing I want to highlight, when you were working locally before, you probably didn't know exactly what your schema was and you wanted to prototype and try a bunch of things out. Like here I have it as user example and like I should probably rename it to user, or maybe I want to add a phone number here. I'm not like super sure, and it'd be great if I could just like try these changes out without like making a bunch of migrations, because those aren't really things I want to save. It's just things I want to try. So Prisma has a new command called Prisma db push, which will effectively push these changes to the client without making a migration, so that you can try everything out, like, and then make a migration when you're ready to save. So I think the IntelliSense should have updated now. So I'm going to try doing something like user example phone number. Create, and then data. And then if I do phone, well, I think it's not picking it up just yet. But usually if you want to try something out and still get all that IntelliSense and the features Prisma gives you because it's so strongly typed, push is going to be the command you're going to go to for making those quick like changes just for prototyping. So there's a lot here, like a lot to go over, but it's definitely like, I think it's a lot of exciting stuff. So we have a bunch of docs and everything you need to get up and running. And like we got, especially if you're upgrading an existing project, make sure to check out this link here. Danny wrote up some great instructions, even with some videos. So I'll post this in chat just to be sure. But we won't, like we're super excited about Migrate and everything it's going to give to the Redwood workflows. So hope you guys enjoy it.
Thanks, Dom. That was perfect. So there's a lot going on for people that are new to Redwood and also maybe come from front end and are looking at back end. They're like, what just happened? It's going to be great. Start with your OBS tutorial and go through. And what's amazing is all of those back end things that feel complex when you get started. The tutorial walks you through in a wonderful learning curve, but also it's really well integrated. So you don't have to know everything at once to do a lot of great things. And that's where William comes in. William, thanks for jumping up here on the stage. All kinds of questions. We want to get to know you a little bit more, but you're going to do a presentation on the Redwood app you created. And we met a couple weeks ago. Actually, the first time I ever saw you pop up was in the Redwood forums, and you just said, hey, I built this thing and here it is. And we all wanted to get to know you and what you did. So William, thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where in the world are you?
Oh, hi, David. Hello, everyone. So I'm out here in Dubai, in the middle of the desert. So I'm halfway across the world. It's like, I think 11 p.m. here. Yeah, just 11 p.m. here now. Yeah, we met a couple of weeks ago because I built something. I stumbled on Redwood and I got into the docs and I immediately loved it. I think it's like the best thing that happened to me since Vue.js docs, like some years ago. And thanks, Rob, for that and everyone that contributed to it. And I always wanted to build stuff. I am currently product manager during the day. At night, like now, I do every other thing from building cool stuff, all the Facebook for plumbers I've always wanted to build. I try to do them at night. And that's how I came across Redwood. David.
Yeah, thank you. And then I think a little bit of emailing back and forth, but yeah, so the first time, and of course, because like I do, as Keith mentioned, first time I met you, I was like, hey, you should totally demo that, the RedwoodJS meetup. It's going to be great. So, right. And here you are.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll just go straight ahead to do just that.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please do. Yeah, and share the screen. Did anyone else have any questions for William before we get started? And also for everyone, we'll make sure we have some discussion time afterward, and we could do some FAQ with William then.
You could see my screen, yeah?
Yep, it's coming through. Great. Yep, coming through, and the font's great. So we're here. Let me do this. If anyone has questions for William as we go, you could put those in the questions tab in the chat, but we'll be watching those as well, and we can make this a little conversational so we could stop William if needed. And but yeah, William, we're here, but dive in and take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, David. So I just a little bit of background about myself. I learned to code some 4 years ago because my friends wouldn't build all the cool stuff I wanted to build. So I had to take things to my own hands and try to build these amazing ideas for, think about like Uber for somebody out there. That's probably for like dry cleaners. Yeah, it's been 4 years. I still haven't built those things, but I think I'm trying these days to build some of them. A couple weeks ago, just before the end of last year, I had this idea. I hire people at work here as product manager. And one of the things I face, or one of the challenges I face with hiring, especially new entrants to tech and beginners, are usually they do not have like a solid portfolio of stuff they've built, and there isn't like I'd say some mileage they've learned from all these amazing tutorials, documentations, and all that, but they haven't built stuff. So I decided to find a way to fix this. What's the bare minimum I could build would be a listing for beginners and new entrants to find roles that are just tailored for beginners, a community to support them, and then maybe beginners could also, or any other person could find people that would complete their side projects. I have like a ton of side projects that are never finished. I think we all do. Maybe we could finish them, right? So I was on Twitter sometime and I found Redwood. And I was like, this is cool. And a friend of mine, I think he replied to the tweet and he's like, yeah, you should check it out. It's cool. And I went to the docs and I was immediately hooked. And in 2 weekends, I built out an MVP, which is Dentry. And I will proceed to show you what it looks like. And I hope it solves the problem I had in mind. So it's basically a couple of pages. It basically utilizes Redwood from start to finish, Redwood stack, React.js on the front end, Prisma ORM, like I'm just seeing here now, and the Postgres database, the GraphQL APIs as well. So just to give a bit of demo of this, we have a landing page here with all the USPs, I suppose, but all the things you could stand to gain from joining Dentry or being a part of it. We have a page to find open roles. Yeah, I need to fix this. It says there are no open roles at first. But then you could find, for now, we have like internship opportunities. I find anywhere on the internet and I post them here, and you could find more about the opportunities and apply to them if you want. Also, we're not very big on learning, I would say, but directly, big on learning. We are more of, we feel like you should build more. Yeah, you would always learn. We all learn. So we have a page here that you could find like, really cool stuff if you want to learn. As a beginner, there's free code camp, there's roadmap.sh by a friend of mine. And there's a YouTube channel here by also a friend of mine. And Career Lift by another friend of mine. And then lastly, we have the community here on the public pages. this is where you could join our safe space of learners and learners building stuff. And if you want to get updates, you could subscribe. I will not spam you. I'll just send you jobs as they come. And okay, I'm already authenticated. You could go to post a new role. It's just, simple forms with CRUD operation to take these roles and then make them public. Because I'm an admin user, I can see all the roles. But basically, you would want to put up a new role, put a description, put all the details required for the role, the location, the compensation if there's any. And then you can also see listed roles. So all the roles you created by yourself and their various actions. And if you would notice, if you've used Redwood, you would see this is not far from what you get when you run the scaffold command. That was one of the things I loved about Redwood, because I didn't have to do so much. I could just focus on solving the problem, and I just use what's available. So yeah, you could get the listed roles and you create a new role, and they are the public pages which you've already seen. And there is a route that is just authorized to just myself, or if you want to be an admin, you let me know, I'll make you one. You could find all the rules that are posted here, and there are various actions you could handle on these rules. So I'll proceed to just give you a brief of the architecture or what this was built with. Like I said earlier, it's the full Redwood stack from the front end in React. The UI was done with Chakra UI because I didn't want to write any CSS. If you've noticed, I did not want to write so many things. I just want to solve a problem. So I used Chakra UI. I got design inspiration from an open UI kit on Figma. So that was good as well. And the database, like I said earlier, is on Postgres. It's deployed to Heroku. If you need the admin credentials, you can also let me know after now. And because this is a Jamstack app, one of the things I love is I do not have to think about DevOps. I do not have to think about how to manage deployment. So the front-end application is deployed in Netlify. The GraphQL APIs are deployed as Netlify functions. Authentication is handled by Netlify Identity. I think I should put Netlify's logo somewhere here. But yeah, authentication is handled by Netlify Identity. And the database also, like I said, it's on Heroku. I need to find a Netlify alternative for that. For the images, like you've seen here, I went with the option of using an image service like Cloudinary. So they are delivered fast from the CDN, and I do not have to bother about storage on the application. Yeah, so what's next for Dentry? What are the things I would like to, there's one more important thing I want to show you. I think it's in the spirit of minimalism. Yeah, in the spirit of doing the bare minimum, I would say, is the content here. So I use Redwood Forms, which is shipped out of the box with Redwood. And for the description, I use the React component, React Quill. I just needed the what you see is what you get editor, so I didn't have to think of a CMS solution or try to get Sanity or Contentful. So this is as simple as it can be. You type in what you want, and you get just exactly the same thing out. And I render that on the front end. Yeah, so what's next for Dentry? Obviously, I want to, as a product manager, I want people to use this and I get feedback and build accordingly, or have a roadmap based off of user feedback. I want to grow the community as well, along with every other person that wants to support, and see how we could get a lot of people starting out in tech to be better. Tech-wise, I want to fix a bunch of things along with the Redwood team. So I have an issue or a challenge with pre-rendering, I want to say. So if I do render a page, or if I do refresh this page from start, see, there's this white screen. I need to fix that before the content loads. I know there could be stuff on the pipeline to fix this, because Redwood is developing really fast. Obviously, I need to migrate to 0.25 now. I think I'll do that this weekend. I wrote all these in JavaScript. I want to move it to TypeScript because of the developer experience as well. And I'm sure there are a lot of performance improvements, SEO improvements for Open Graph. because that isn't like, it isn't built in already at the moment. Yeah, so I want to do those. And for Redwood, it's amazing. Like it's, I think if I want to build something now, I could build it just quickly without having to think about like the technology, what to do on the back end, how to write REST APIs and deploy to Docker and all of that. I didn't even use Redux here. I probably would later, but that's how simple it gets. It's just solving the problem. For Redwood, I love the the technology. I know there's still a lot of work to do with, like Keith said, if we're going to support startup and businesses, we would want to build stuff with SEO out of the box, possibly analytics as well. We'd want to see media management out of the box. And then a key thing about Jamstack frameworks is extensibility. I know we are opinionated and we have this perfect world we want to get to, but a lot of times a lot of people want to extend one portion of Redwood and make that better or build something off for themselves, which is good. So I feel that could also be like a great thing that would come. And I want to work with everyone to make this better and get opportunities out to everyone. Thank you very much.
This is really great, William. Thank you for sharing this with us. And I love hearing stories about people being able to put together an idea that they had very quickly with Redwood. That's sort of the whole point of why we started working on it, to take these great technologies that we have available to us now in the JavaScript and TypeScript ecosystem and integrate them in a way that allows you to just get to the actual work of your product and spend less time thinking about like, oh, I really should write tests, but there's another 2 weeks of my life trying to figure out how to get that to work with this other React stuff. And then you add data fetching, and now you want to test your data fetching, and that's another 2 weeks. And then you want to get Storybook going, and that's another 2 weeks or 3 months. Who knows, right? Like it takes forever. And so it's amazing that you're reaping those benefits. And it gives me great feelings to hear you were able to put this together so quickly. It's very impressive.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tim.
And William, you said, let me be clear, you said 2 weekends, not even 2 weeks. Is that correct? Yeah. Like I think you said, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. And you mentioned it, but I think another thing, and this is not everything in serverless world is working as we hoped and dreamed it would, but we're still building Redwood for the future. But a little bit more like, what is your infrastructure cost right now? So, because that can be another major barrier to getting a project going, but is it, you said Netlify and Heroku, like what's it take to run the site right now? Oh
yeah, it takes just around $0 to run the site.
You're rounding up $0. Okay, that's awesome. Which is awesome, right? That's okay. Yeah. I was wondering if that was the case, but man, yeah, that's really amazing. And you said Chakra UI. There's a lot of comments in here about we missed some of the questions, but a lot of comments about how great it looks. And by the way, Chris Burns. And yes, in the comments, we're all about collaboration. William, everyone was making note that you were inviting people to come and have admin access, but Chris Burns said he wanted to help out on the starting page flash as well. So do follow up with him. Any other questions for William? Yes. William, please stay up here as well. We'll have Danny come up, but make sure we've got some more discussion. So any more questions for now?
Yeah, sure, I'm here.
Anybody? William, is there anything else as a community we could do to help you and help Dentry?
I can't think of, aside to fix the front page flash. That's one thing the community could help with, which Chris has already volunteered to do. Yeah, there isn't, maybe if you find anyone starting out that needs some help, yeah, that would be good to send them over to Dentry, or maybe to reach me. I'll be very glad to help.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know one thing we could do, and you're, I will say it for you, but we love to help spread the word for projects like this. So we'll make sure, if you go back to your slide, you had your Twitter up there. I think someone's posting the website for Dentry, but let's spread the word about this project and make sure we follow and help. And that's another great, I'm sure we could help you, is get the word out. Are you ready for that? Would that be good?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure the cost will still stay $0. So
Got it. You're not worried about the loan.
So,
That's perfect.
yeah, that's the beauty of having the Jamstack ecosystem. I think they try as much as possible to have this generous free tier for using the service, so you could have as much. You could try out the product, and if it makes sense and you want to turn it into like maybe a business or generate revenue somehow, you could pay for it. So yeah, it's cool, and I want as much people to try it and leave feedback as well.
Okay, very good. And you're on, I've seen you in the forums, I think you're on Discord as well. So other places to get a hold of William. I think there it is. There's Danny. I'm going to close this, your screen share.
Okay.
And, but please stay up here, William. I wanted you just to stick around and we'll continue some conversation. So Danny, speaking of some of the things William is trying to do, Danny, why don't you show us some pretty cool things that are coming next in Redwood. So this is not about V0.25, which just released. Danny's already working ahead. We actually told him no, he could not do it yet because we wanted this next feature to have its own release so we could highlight it. But Danny, take it away. And please introduce yourself. We feel like we know you really well, but for those who haven't met you yet, please introduce yourself.
All right, and well, hey guys, I'm based in London in the UK. Can everyone hear me okay? There's a little bit of echo. I'm helping my parents move, so empty flat. So I'm part of the Redwood core team, and for the past few weeks, I've been trying to help get the release out, of course, but also been focused on pre-rendering. And that's what I'll walk you through today. This will definitely solve your white flash in the beginning, William. But definitely speak to Chris as well, because the React Snap way of doing it also works. That's what I'm using on take.sh still, until we officially move it into the Redwood codebase. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so coming through?
Yes.
Great. So I promise it's not going to be a full presentation, but I do need to give you guys some context because there's just so much to talk about, and then I'll talk about the white flash and the performance benefits as well. So first thing is, what exactly is pre-rendering? And because this is something that comes up every single time I talk about pre-rendering. Are you guys seeing the slides? I can't see the messages, so. Oh, okay, yeah, great.
Yep, all good.
So Anthony posted a link. I talked through on his podcast about all these various terms, but I'm going to recap very briefly what these terms mean, not going into detail on each of them, but whether it's SSG, SSR, ISSG, whatever, all of these three-letter acronyms, they all have one thing in common, and they all try to render your markup or your JSX, or in the case of Redwood, your actual app in Node.js, which runs on the server, to just give you HTML. The way they vary is when this rendering happens. So whether it happens at build time, or it happens at runtime, or it happens every time you go onto the page. So that's the key differences. Have a look at Anthony's post there. I kind of broke it down a little bit more. But this, what I'm going to talk about is going to talk about how to render HTML from your Redwood app. And there's a whole bunch of things here that I'm not going to go through. This is kind of helpful to people who want to contribute later. But since I'm just generating HTML here, I'm going to show you, first of all, what, sorry about the, here we go. So I'm going to show you what the effect is first, and then we're going to see how to do it once this gets merged into Redwood's code base. So on the left here, I have a pre-rendered Redwood site, and on the right, I have the same exact code base with pre-rendering disabled. You'll notice that I have cache disabled and I have network throttling, just so that you can see the difference in the loading times. So you can see this has the same white screen effect that William just showed us. It wasn't too bad, but you see the equivalent on the pre-rendered version, and although the page was loading, it was instant. Hopefully you guys got to see that. I'm not sure if the screen shows you the delays accurately. So what I'm going to do is I'll just find that tape and send it to you. I think it's this one. Yeah. So that you guys can see as well on your machines what the difference is. So the reason this is important is because as your app grows, like I'm getting on tape as well, as your app grows, your JavaScript code base grows and your bundle size grows. And what eventually happens is, like with including Chakra UI as well, it became difficult to manage maybe the bundle size, which is why you start to see that little bit of white screen. What Prerender does is essentially takes your Redwood app and generates HTML before, and I'll go into detail why it improves performance as well. So I'm showing you this version now where the JavaScript has been disabled, and there are a few key pages I have pre-rendered, and that they kind of show up here. What you'll notice here is in the pre-rendered version, these have like huge sizes, but that's because I have another optimization that we'll talk about briefly as well. Once you enable JavaScript, though, you'll notice that it loads up. It also has this new section, which is just to demonstrate that you can add stuff in without having it pre-rendered if you'd like to. A good example of this stuff would be maybe pricing sections on your page, because you don't want to show stale data. You just want to always show the latest data that's available to you. And it's kind of helpful sometimes to have these utils. It's all built in. So now I'm going to show you how to do that in your Redwood app. Of course, this is not bundled in the 0.25 release, but it will be in the Canary very soon. And we'd love some feedback. So first thing, we're going to go into Redwood TOML. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that everyone can see. So Redwood TOML is the configuration file that exists already in your code base. And in order to enable pre-render, what we need is this flag to be true, experimental pre-render to be true. At this point, Redwood will know how to handle your code base and will figure out what to pre-render and put it into your dist folder by the time you ship your app. The next step you have to do, and this is very complicated, is you have to go in here, whatever page you want to pre-render, and this is my layout of the page I just showed you. You add the prop pre-render, and that's about it. You're ready to
wait. Danny, you skipped over two things like they were easy. Okay, thing one that you said was, no, look, what you showed us was easy. Thing one that you said was Redwood knows what to do and what to render, right?
Yes.
Okay, so because we have HTML, possibly CSS, you also have data, and you're doing some data fetching. So you skipped over that and made that sound like it was simple. And then I just love, yeah, well done on the props and the routes, because that was well done. But it's more what it means for the system that you created here to be smart and knowing what to do. Like, what are all the things?
Sure. So the reason I wanted to say there is a lot of complexity under the hood inside the Redwood code base, and if you're curious, the PR is still open. You can have a look at how it handles all of the logic for this. But from the experience as a user of Redwood, it should be very, very simple, and that's the sort of experience we've tried to maintain in this pre-render preview. What it won't do is, and I was going to get into that in a second, because the first thing I showed you was a pre-rendered homepage, which has no dynamic data. So pretty much static HTML would be totally fine. But now I'm going to show you a cell which has completely dynamic data and just show you how the pre-rendered code behaves. So here's one I made before, because it takes a while to deploy. So I'll just show you what the result is. So if I go to this page, and remember, and this is a great example where it took a while for the page to respond. Again, it's because I'm throttling the network to show you cases where this can happen. And so what you saw there was, hopefully you saw that when it does go, it loads the page instantly. And what it's doing is, if I disable JavaScript, what we'll be able to do is see that it's rendered this loading page. This is the loading component from your cell. And I can show you exactly that in the code base. So if we go into, sorry, my computer slows down as soon as I screen share, so bear with me. But what it's actually rendering is this loader here, which is completely standard Redwood code. The same way you would do cells before, it now hooks into the pre-render code and it says, when I'm going to pre-render, I'm not going to fetch all of this data. I'm just going to render the loading state, so that by the time your page has opened up, which I will, once I enable JavaScript, once it's loaded up, it goes and fetches your data and renders it on screen. The result is just a much faster experience. And this is particularly something you notice when you have a lot of data in your page. So we've talked about static pre-rendering, we've talked about cells pre-rendering, but we haven't talked about authenticated pages pre-rendering. So I'm going to show you that one now as well. And in exactly the same way you would do pre-rendering on the other routes, you simply add a pre-render prop here. Now, on an authenticated path, notice that this is a private path. So unless you're logged in, you shouldn't be able to see any of the content. Maybe you can see a loading screen. And from a few releases ago, Redwood Router added this while loading prop. And the idea is, whenever it's checking to make sure you're logged in, it shows you this component. So the idea, the logic behind it remains exactly the same. So if you're trying to pre-render a authenticated page, it's going to try and render the dashboard loader. And my dashboard loader, I'll show you, is nothing special. It's just the dashboard layout with some content loaders, the flashy things, the skeleton loaders that show up. So now if we go check what it's like, you can see it was instant, it showed up, and then loads all of your data, and then shows up, all of the information shows up. This is a very common case, I think, for most of the Redwood apps that I've seen built so far. You can imagine people going straight to the dashboard or straight to your profile, and you can render the skeleton while it's fetching the data, and it updates your screen. Sorry, there was a question? No?
No, I think most things are basically amazing. I put the little like mind blown emoji in because that's how I feel right now.
So that's really kind of you, David. I think some people are thinking, wait, so all of this talking about just rendering HTML, big deal, dude. But I want to go into a little bit more detail about why this has a performance impact. Why is it faster? It's not just because there's HTML, but there's a few other things that's happening behind the scenes. This is this pre-rendered page, by the way. So this is just the static HTML. And once you load it, it shows you that, and then will dynamically update there. That little flash you see, that's a small issue we have on the Redwood router, because I'm using the layout to do the pre-rendering. This will go away shortly soon. I know that Toby's doing some really good stuff with Redwood router that's going to completely wipe that problem away. But for unauthenticated pages, you're not going to see a flash at all. So let me talk about what's happening so that everyone's on the same page. So when you're loading a page without pre-render, there are these two goalposts. And so you're entering from the left, where you navigate to the URL. And I'm just going to walk you through what gets loaded. So the first thing your browser does, it downloads and parses the HTML. Hopefully you're using HTTP2, so it can download the CSS and JS bundle at the same time. And then it's going to parse and diff and render your application onto the page. And at that point, the page becomes visible. So the white screen that we see, that we saw in my demo and in Dentry, it's because this time here in between the two posts is very long. And that usually, from my experience, is because this bundle gets really big and nothing gets shown until the bundle loads and the CSS loads. So with pre-render, what we're doing is we're saying there's still these two goalposts. It's still going to render in the same time, because I'm not going to optimize all of these other things that go into your app. But what we're going to do is we're going to make it feel a lot faster. So we're going to download the HTML and parse it now. The CSS and JS bundles download the same way, but as soon as the CSS is downloaded, the page becomes visible and partially interactive. So to the user, it looks like it's loaded instantly, but in the background, it's still loading your application. And what it's doing also is once it gets the JS bundle, it then does a diff against what's already on the page and what it's meant to render, changes whatever it needs to, and attaches all of the event handlers and any new data that you get. So this is why the white screen that you get with pre-render is actually this time in between these two posts. And usually this is very, very quick because CSS isn't that big. But you'll notice that I changed the size of the HTML. And that's because once you pre-render, the HTML gets slightly bigger. And what that means is your HTML takes slightly longer to load, but it kind of makes up because you're showing the page to the user so much earlier into the cycle. Now, this is great, and this is the version of pre-render that, fingers crossed, we're going to ship in experimental mode in version 26. But there's some other optimizations that you can do, and this is something I'm looking at right now. I'm just sharing with you guys just to get some feedback and some thoughts around this. So one of the other things you can do is say, hey, why do you have to wait for the CSS? Why don't you just show the page as soon as the HTML is there? And you can do that if you take the CSS that appears right at the top, above the fold as it's called, inline it into the HTML, and then tell the browser to not wait because the browser has everything it needs to display. And what that does is it moves our middle goalpost, as in how quickly the user sees the page, even further. And you'll notice that this gets a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger, and that's why there's an interesting bit here where how big do you want the HTML to be before it's actually better to just leave it as is? So this is one of the things that I've been playing around with and experimenting, but it's really interesting. And if you have any thoughts or suggestions on how else we can optimize it, I'm all ears. And finally, I'm just going to talk a little bit about why the while loading prop the while loading component shows up on private pages. This is just to give you a little bit of insight into some of the decisions we're taking. So the way Redwood currently does rendering private routes is it loads the HTML with the JavaScript and CSS. Once the app is mounted, it checks for the current user using an API request. So in between this point and this point here, it's going to show you your while loading. Sorry, actually at that point, it's going to show you your while loading component. These two steps just tell you exactly that. Once the user details are loaded, it replaces it with the actual content of your page, if you're authenticated, and then the page becomes visible. So with pre-rendering, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, don't load the blank HTML. Just at this point, load the while loading right away. So while Redwood is doing all of these checks in the background, these still happen, nothing changes there. You're seeing the while loading prop. If you don't add that, you'll get the standard white screen while it's loading. So that while loading prop becomes really important when you're doing pre-render. And finally, what are the things that the community can do to help with pre-rendering? So there's a lot of code changes that have gone in. I've touched pretty much the entirety of the Redwood code base, which means that we're going to need to test it really, really well. So as soon as it gets merged, I would love if we got some feedback from people who already have apps in Redwood to pre-render, try the pre-render stuff. It's going to be relatively simple to set it up. I'll write up a guide as soon as we merge it in. But in terms of setting it up in your project, it literally is the case of those two steps beyond upgrading to the new version of Redwood that we'll need. So when you do pre-rendering, there are always going to be a few edge cases that come up, such as the library you're using may not support universal rendering. So these are called universal libraries because they run both in the browser and on the server. So it's quite often that's where you get stuck when trying to do any form of SSG or pre-rendering. So if that does happen on your project, you can run this command after you've built it, just to see exactly where it's going wrong, and you can post that as an issue. And of course, there's the usual ones, which is tell us how you can, if there are further optimizations we can do, or if there's something that doesn't seem quite right to you, definitely bring it up. I'm usually on Discord and Discourse as well. And also definitely tell me if you like it. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
I like it already, Danny. I just want to say again and reiterate some of what David was saying before, but the amount of work that went into making once this is shipped and this is live and it's not behind this experimental flag anymore, all of this machinery, massive amounts of machinery that are necessary to do this and get this running on the server, and it is an extremely non-trivial thing that Danny's done here, and all of it is behind a single word that you add to your route that enables all of this functionality. And that to me is the greatest, that's always the most beautiful thing for me to see, is like this massive amount of complexity that gets you these huge benefits in performance and SEO that people really demand. Like this kind of functionality is one of the two top things that people asked for as soon as we announced Redwood in the very beginning, was how do you do SSR or corollaries? And do you support TypeScript? So having an answer to this pre-render question, at least in this, and this is just the first case that we're covering, this case where your URLs do not have dynamic bits, which solves generally the marketing pages. Having all of that available and to get past that problem with a single keyword that you add to your route is just amazing. Like this is the Redwood dream that we've had for so long. And Danny's done an amazing job on this. It makes me so happy.
I really appreciate it, Tom. And you know, I love that philosophy so much as well, that, you know, I know pre-rendering can be complicated, and it is complicated, but as a user of Redwood, you shouldn't feel that way. It should just be simple to you. You should just get it, and you should be able to configure it. And I feel like Redwood has had that philosophy every step of the way. And that's what got me interested in the first place. So I'm glad I'm keeping with that ethos.
That's amazing. I was typing too, but so there were some questions that came through, Danny. A lot of them were around, and Tom, you spoke to this too, but where is this headed? Is it going to stop here? Questions around CSS. Maybe look through. I was going to see if we could get one thing where, so if you need to leave, please do. We were scheduled to end in about 3 minutes. We're going to go a little bit longer just because there's some amazing things you just saw, both from William and Danny. I want to make sure we have some time to discuss, and let's open discussion. So if you have questions in the chat, please do. If you want to join us up on stage, just let me know in the chat. Amanda, thank you. We'll do it again another time. There are some amazing women that are part of this project as well. Currently on stage, that is not represented well, but a lot of those amazing women couldn't make it here today. But we've introduced them before. Kim-Adeline is one of them. But thank you, Amanda. We'll have you up again. But if anyone wants to join us up on stage, please feel free. You don't have to have your video on. You could just do audio as well. But yeah, questions, discussion, and yeah, where to go. I think a couple questions I had, Danny, is just where can people follow the project and the work next? What would be, because there's a PR on GitHub, would the forums be the right place to kind of follow what's happening with pre-render? But if they want to give you feedback and try this, where should they look?
So if you're interested in the code, Toby's just put up the pull request on there. There's a lot of code there, and there's a lot of commits there. What I will say is read through the commit history if you're interested, rather than look at the code, because that should give you a better idea of what's going on before you go into the code. In terms of where to get feedback, I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to merge it into Canary after 0.25, and then we'll probably have an announcement or a post on the forum where we'll ask for some feedback. I think that's the best way forward. There is something I forgot to show. Is it okay if I share my screen again?
I mean, I like it.
It's not.
Are you asking me for permission? I just do it. I mean, I don't make the rules here. It seems like I do, but I do not.
So no, I just wanted to show you something else, because I know I'm asking for feedback. So I just want to point out that there's some warnings that get shown that actually don't matter that much. So essentially, when you have the pre-render flag set up, and the experimental flag set up, and the props in your root, when you run build web or just build, what it does is actually it goes through this step of once it's built web, it pre-renders your app. Now, when you do that, especially with the verbose flag, you're going to see a lot of warnings come through. As long as you don't get an error, that's totally fine. It's something we'll need to resolve as we get it, you know, out of the experimental phase. But as soon as my computer decides to do it, I'll just skip this step. So let me first show you the sort of errors that I'd love to get feedback for. So if I do pre-render dry run, it is going to fail now, fingers crossed.
You have to spell pre-render correctly.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of acronyms, what should our acronym be? I want it to be RAD. I'll just put that out there. I just don't know what the D is for.
Yeah.
But Redwood's awesome. I mean, that's a good start, right?
So this is going to be a very common thing that you're going to see. And you see this because you haven't built your project first. So please don't raise this as an issue. I know it's a little bit unusual, but you're meant to run build and Redwood handles it underneath. The other type of warning that you don't necessarily need to report are the warnings that are going to come through in approximately 30 seconds. We have to sit here and wait.
Samson, welcome. I would love to have you introduce yourself while we'll let Danny finish up here. But thanks for bringing a brave soul to join us up on stage. So I would love to get to know you here in just a second.
Wow,
So
really
RAD.
Okay, so it's built web, great. And you see all of these warnings that come through. Could not resolve this, cannot resolve that. Don't worry about that. As long as you see these check marks, you're good. So the script knows that it's what it can handle, what it can't handle, so it'll tell you if something goes really wrong. By the way, if pre-rendering fails, it actually has very little impact anyway. So you won't get the performance boost, of course, but it's not going to break your app or anything.
I want to hear how William's life has changed in the last 15 minutes.
Lot. A lot, I would say. It's a lot of fascinating stuff. I think the part I liked most, like Tom said, was just having to just include pre-render and that's it. It's like, this is top level developer experience. It's like top notch. So yeah, this is really good stuff. Dan. This is rad.
See, it's catching. Samson, welcome. Where are you in the world right now? And have we talked before? There was a Samson on audio once, I believe. We didn't get to see the person. Oh, you're on mute.
It's the same Samson.
All right.
Yeah, the last one, the first one, was it 2 months ago? I guess 2 months. Was it in December? I think. I remember. It was in December. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in Kenya right now.
Okay, Kenya. Yeah. Well,
yes.
welcome. Where's your Redwood experience or journey? Have you dipped in with some code yet? Or are you?
Yeah. I've been looking at the documentation. I've been doing a lot of the code on the documentation, trying just to understand how things work out. And then I couldn't join you guys earlier. There was something that tied me. I was just trying to finish some, or supervising some students' code. I think I told you guys that I teach. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe remind us though. 2 months is about 10 years ago in the current life. So yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, I teach at a local boot camp here. Teach at a local boot camp, basically front-end technologies, just JavaScript, React, Redux. That's what I do. Yeah. But I've seen you guys have done some pretty interesting things. I was just trying to understand what was being done by Daniel. That was very interesting, and I liked it.
Yeah, we're hoping that Redwood can become a part of a teaching curriculum and help students narrow their focus on some of the elements with a little more clarity by providing more of just the assemblage of the things and say, oh, let's learn GraphQL. And in that you can say, here's how the SDL works. Here's how you write the functions that satisfy the resolvers. and you can focus more on the GraphQL itself versus getting GraphQL running and like trying to get it to fit in with these other technologies. And so if you ever have a chance to use Redwood at the boot camp, we'd love to hear any feedback on that. We have another woman who has run a similar sort of boot campy experience, a short training experience for people using Redwood, and found it to be really successful. So if you ever do want to do that, let us know and we can connect you with her, or otherwise try to make your life easier for using it as a teaching tool, because I think it could be really effective in that context.
That would be great. In fact, I'm trying to understand it better before I can even introduce it. That's the reason why I'm just still exploring it. I've told guys about it, but still they find it to be something that's still not common. People like the popular frameworks like Angular, Vue, React. Redwood seems like something that's somewhere hidden. So in a way, I understand.
It's still early days.
Yeah.
It'll take some time to get the word out there and have people have enough experiences with it that it starts to become more common. And I think getting to a 1.0 release is the first step in that. And getting pre-render available was a big part that we wanted. We told ourselves we can't do 1.0 until pre-render is available. So that's one of the big pieces. And now that we will very soon have a pre-render, that unlocks 1.0 in a pretty big way. And we're hoping to get a 1.0 out in hopefully March, I think would be ideal. And then at that point, I think we'll have more people try it out, because it's, there is a lot of churn. There's a lot of turmoil in these 0.0 releases, as is evidenced by this 0.25 release, which changes a lot of things.
Churny. Yeah, I'd say it was churny.
We're gonna break more stuff. Like we kind of saved all the big breaking stuff for kind of late in the 0.0 game. We're gonna break how your routes work probably at least once with layouts. Well, we won't break them. It's just we'll offer you a way that makes them better, but you'll have to change the way that you do where you put your layouts. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And all of these things have huge advantages that come along with them. But yeah, it's a bumpy ride sometimes pre 1.0, but we're going to hit that 1.0. It's going to be solid. I hope it's in March. There's so many little things. It's going to be hard to draw the line and be like, when do we stop fixing bugs and just call it a 1.0 and then keep fixing bugs afterwards? But
and I can see the contributors have increased. The contributors for Redwood. Yeah,
amazingly.
And
we
then
have
I remember
probably
the
over
last
180. Samson, sorry, probably over 180 people now that have contributed. If you look at the release notes on this one alone, there was, I believe it was like 20 people we've had in the last couple of weeks, 30 days. So it's been great. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, and I can remember the last meetup that I joined you guys. There was an MVP by somebody called Christopher from Everfund. I was looking at this stack using Redwood, which was interesting. So that's a positive thing from the Redwood guys. So that's a good thing. Yeah, good to know that.
Absolutely. So Everfund, Chris Burns is who you're talking about, and they are a funded Redwood startup, and they're hiring Redwood developers. I don't know if they're actively hiring right now, but they have. I just looked in the forum, the Redwood forums. So that's community.redwoodjs.com, because I wanted to post a link for you, Samson. Melisha, look at that post. She did a 6-week boot camp, learn GraphQL, learn React, learn Redwood in that order. It went really well. We've met Melisha, and she's been really busy the last couple of weeks, but I've been talking to her about doing some more teaching. So she could be a great resource, wonderful person. And also just posted in the forum was, I just want to read the title, come join a Redwood startup, we're hiring. So yeah, so looking for someone to join a Redwood startup, get paid to build with Redwood. I think that's like the first, like just happened 6 minutes ago. I think I've seen it, but this is the first one. It's like the headline, hey, it's a Redwood startup and we're hiring. So that's coming. And that's what Keith was talking about earlier, right? How do we, like Redwood in business environments, how do we support that and where can those conversations happen? So check out the forums if you want to build something cool with Redwood. I don't even know what it is, but it's on Redwood, so it's got to be cool, right? but
Yeah.
pretty fun. So Samson, it's all happening, and yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I've been telling guys that what Redwood is, the simplest way I could be able to explain to others what Redwood is was to tell them that that's Rails for JavaScript. That's what I've been saying because of all the features that that Redwood has. Considering I remember what Tom told me about what Redwood is supposed to be, not just because React is just a rendering engine. Redwood has to do with the database, the routes, the backend, everything. So to make it simple for others, I just told them that's Rails for JavaScript. So considering that Rails is very popular, so that was the only way in which I could be able to explain to others, so that they don't feel it's just some toy project somebody created for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a fine way to describe it. I mean, it's not exactly Rails for JavaScript, right? We do a lot of things totally different. The architecture is completely different. It's not trying to be Rails, but I think that makes it easy for people to understand the problem that we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
The problems that you solve with Rails are the same problems that you would try to solve with Redwood. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I have this question I just remembered. So one of the challenges I had was fixing the open graph tags in React Helmet on Dentry. And I wanted to know, Danny, do you think this would fix, like pre-rendering would fix that? Because the helmet tags are in cells, right? So I do not know if they are going to fix like having, you know, the preview card you get when you post like URLs on Slack or WhatsApp.
Yeah. So if it is going to work, I believe, I haven't tried it with Helmet just yet, so that should go on my list. It will work if your page is simply looking at the root and saying, hey, you're going to the About page, so I'm going to show you the About image, right? So if you're using Helmet that way. And there are definitely use cases for this. I've personally done this before in a previous life. But what it won't handle is if you have, like on tape, where you have a completely dynamic URL, where the data you're loading is completely different every single time, it won't render it for you because it runs at build time, not at runtime. That's not to say that we're not looking at runtime solutions as well, but that's further down the line. This is more focused on build time, which is going to cover a lot of the upsides of having pre-rendered code, but not all of them.
Cool. I guess I just have to test it out then. I have a lot of stuff to try out now. That's cool. Thanks.
Danny, real quick, and how did you solve that for tape? Because you did. So the open graph and sharing for the tape widgets.
Yeah. So with the open graph thing, the problem with this is that this particular problem isn't Jamstack friendly. But because Jamstack means that you already have rendered stuff already on CDN, and then JavaScript loads to dynamically show you stuff. Now, the way you can solve this, if you're running on Netlify, by the way, William, I forgot to mention this. There is a very handy pre-render tick mark that you can put on in Netlify, and they will handle completely dynamic stuff for you. In the case of tape, what I did was, and this is before I realized there was that tick mark on Netlify, I built it in Next.js and speaking to the Redwood API. That solution has a couple of other problems because essentially if you're doing ISSG, which is what I was doing, then you run into an issue. It has to be server rendered for it to show completely dynamic OG headers. That's a little bit of a gotcha, but luckily with Netlify, try that check mark with React Helmet, and I think you'll be pretty pleased.
Yeah, I'm looking for it now.
All right.
There's a question in the question tab there.
I was going to point that out. It's for you,
okay.
Rob.
Yes. It says, when is Rob going to record videos for tutorial 2? Yeah, so this is the curse of video. As soon as we make a video and then the next day merge a PR that changes something, oh, Tom's got to go. Bye, Tom.
Bye, Tom.
As soon as something comes in that changes something about the CLI or something, then now the video's out of date. So what I was going to do is hold off now until 1.0 probably. And once 1.0 comes out, I'll do new videos. I'll do the first part again, and then we'll do the second part. Because then hopefully the API surface will stay a little more stable. Those videos will last longer, will be valid for a longer time. So that's the current plan. So March-ish or whenever we think about 1.0, we'll probably have some new videos around then.
We do love Rob's videos.
My wacky intros.
Yeah, things may be a little different now in the code base than the videos. I think we broke. Just a smidge. A hinch, as my young children say. Well, we've pleasantly gone over, but probably need to call this one an end. We'll be doing another RedwoodJS meetup sometime soon, but please, in the meantime, we'd love to have anyone and everyone be a part of our community, and that takes place, yes, on GitHub, but a lot of activity in the forums and a lot of activity in the Discord chat. We love helping each other be successful with Redwood, because that's what makes Redwood successful. And you've seen a lot of that happen today. Go try out 0.25. Tell us what's working, what's not working, if you're upgrading, how that's going. And don't forget to thank a Redwood contributor today, because a lot of them crushed it on that release. So thank you all. All right, Samson, good to see you. Thanks for joining us again. William, well done.
Yeah.
Excited to see what happens with Dentry, and we look forward to having you be more part of the community as well. Forrest, welcome to the core team. You did great. Dom, great. Rob, great. Danny, crushed it. I don't want to leave, but I'm going to hit the end event now. So thank you to everyone. DT, crushed it. So many people. All right. Anything else? Signing off. All right. Thank you all. We'll have the recording up soon on our YouTube channel, and some notes coming soon. But everyone, until next time, have fun playing around with Redwood. Bye.
All right, bye, everyone.